Well, it's that time again. Every quarter, we ask wealth expert Ann McCabe-Triana to give us her take on the months ahead based on some key economic numbers she's been crunching for us and does every day. And some good news. It's a good start for the new year, she says, but with some caution flags ahead. And thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Let's take a look first at the thing everyone's watching, interest rates.
Yes.
What's your take on interest rates?
So we talked about last time I was on the important part from an economic standpoint to determine where we are in regards to a recession is to look at the yield curve. And when that inverts, in other words, short-term rates go higher than long-term rates, that could be an indicator that we're close to a recession. We'll talk a little bit more later, but one of the things you'll notice on the graphic that we show on the screen is that we have ticked that arrow 2 spots closer to the red because
Let's go ahead and talk about that now. Yeah, go ahead. So because we've done what? What's happening?
We've seen the yield curve. We're not close to an inversion, but we have seen it flatten. So it's something that we're taking a look at. And what that means is that short-term interest rates went up and long-term rates actually went down. It was only the second time we've seen that in the past 30 years. So this one is a bit closer to the red, but we still think we're a ways away from an inversion.
Okay, so let's get to the next thing you always like to look at, LEI, the leading economic indicators. Where are those right now?
Right, so this I've talked about in the past is a great indicator as to what we should see happen in the economy. The most recent LEI that we got was from mid-December. It did increase by 0.6%. This is exactly where it was last time, still in the positive.
Okay, stock valuations, how are we doing there?
We talked last time about stock valuations. This is the one indicator last time that was a bit hot. We put it on watch and it still is on watch. The PE ratio on the S&P 500 is a bit higher than it was last time I was here. It's at 19.3% as of Friday. Long-term average is 15, but it is important to remember that PE ratios can be elevated for a while, and that low interest rates rather can support long PE ratios at elevated levels.
Another one that's kind of a tricky concept, market breadth, but it is an important one. Where are we there and what is it?
Yeah, market breadth is actually quite simple. It's the idea of how many companies are participating in the rally. And the more broad-based that is, the more companies that are participating in the rally, the more bullish or positive the indicator is. And the more concentrated the companies that are participating in the rally, the more bearish or negative.
I love this number because I do think it's so important in terms of the overall health of all workers, economy, wages. So where are we on market breadth?
We're looking good as well. It's been a very broad-based rally and that continues.
And finally, let's talk about the Institute for Supply Management Purchasing Managers Index. It's a mouthful, but you say it's an important one to keep an eye on.
It is. If you look historically, when the ISM peaks and starts going down, typically about 6 months later, we'll see a peak in profits. We got this number out earlier in January. It was positive for the 19th consecutive month. So this is also a positive signal right now. No change as of last time.
So in the green, edging towards the red, out of all these different areas, for your clients, which one are you the most nervous about? What are you going to be watching most closely in the weeks to come?
I would say the one that's the most different from the last time that I was here is definitely the interest rate story. We talked a lot about last year how long-term interest rates came down, which was unexpected, but not a lot of people are talking about this flattening of the yield curve. So I think that is something to keep an eye on. We are, as I mentioned, still a ways away from an inversion. And this idea that when interest rates go up, the market goes down or that we lose the bull market is actually a major misconception. We actually went back to data from 1950s and we saw that the average first time that the Fed increases interest rates happens only about 37% of the way through an economic recovery, meaning less than halfway through the economic recovery. So I want people to remember that when interest rates increase, which they probably will this year, although we've been saying that for a few years, we don't believe that that will derail the market by any means. We may see volatility increase, but it does not mean that the bull market is over.
I love that you're such a girl geek and that you crunch these numbers so well. Head up your own company. Juggle working mom, Ann McCabe-Triana. So thanks so much for your insight. We appreciate it.
Rebecca. Good.